Wow!
There you go. There you go.
I'm Justin Gandolfini.
I don't like this side. I'm sitting over there. Fuck you, Zach. Do you want it?
That side feels weird.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right.
So you know, we're gonna do this promo for 1 minute, and then we're gonna come to start up. And my special guest is not here, so I don't know if he's gonna be late or not come at all. So
Fuck that guy.
he's gonna have his first pro fight.
Don't give a fuck.
No, it's just cool.
Remember my first beer.
First beer.
We are not live, sir. I said a shake, shake, a shake, shake, a
It says we're live,
shakers.
so I don't know.
Oh, fuck. There it is.
All right, we are going live now.
Oh, this. We are not live, sir. This actually has audio. I had no clue that the promo had audio.
I was trying to tell you we're live.
Shake, shake, a shakers.
Shake, 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 shake. You're singing.
I'm in my own world, man.
Remember the name of that group?
Metro Station.
Yes, nice.
Miley Cyrus's brother.
Yes.
What's good?
And they haven't done crap since.
Nope.
All right. I think we got levels on all of us. And according to your phone and
We
my
are
info,
live.
we are live. So starting a little bit late. That's okay, though. Got a lot of stuff to cover tonight. But you are watching Session Stream live from Shaker's Bar, downtown Cape. If you'll notice, the dais is 3 of us again. These are my soldiers, my troopers here. Cody's sick. I'm sick. Zach's just crazy. But we are here every week like we always are. We want to be a bastion of information.
What's up, Coach Eric?
Who's that?
Adam?
Adam Monahan?
Yes.
Is it Adam Monahan?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Coach Eric. Adam.
Sounds like a knockoff of a...
No, because I coached boxing and MMA.
No, I'm just saying Coach Eric. It's like a knockoff Coachella.
Knockoff Coachella. I'm going to Coach Eric, man. Who's playing? I have no idea who's playing.
No idea.
They don't even have like instruments, man. They're just standing on stage and talking shit.
You're good at that.
I know. But anyway, what's up, Adam Monahan? Glad to know. You guys, this is great because we want to know if you're on here. Sometimes we have several people watching. Sometimes we don't have any at all. So we'd love to have you let us know that you're there, so we can give you a shout out. Let me get my phone ready here. Here we go. All right, so lots going on, fellas. Zach, how you doing these days?
We're doing well.
Yeah. What'd you do this week?
Work.
Host
my open mic.
Yeah.
My soul.
Hosted open mic after taking a week off. Got a little air, a little break.
It was nice.
You got to give yourself a little time. So what you need to understand is, Zach, when Zach doesn't take time off work, what Zach's doing is taking time off from drinking. Because that's what Zach takes time.
That's what it is.
That's what Zach takes time off of, because he goes hard in the paint. You do. But he's been getting a little more mature about it, a little more solid about it, and so I will give you a credit, man. I want to shout this out. I know there's a really cool movie starting tonight, Harley Quinn.
Absolutely.
And I know you're going to see it, but case in point, same thing when the Joker was here. You did the show and then you went to see the Joker.
Absolutely.
That's what people do when they are loyal.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so if you'll notice, there's somebody missing, and he's been here a couple of weeks, but he's not here.
I would argue he's a unloyal son of a bitch.
Yeah, pretty much.
I still love him.
Cody's here and can't even, he's sick as a dog, and he's here. It's all right.
Killing it.
Shoe-polished beard, man.
Shoe-polished beard.
Rubbed it on myself.
Shoe polish smelled a motherfucker. If you know what that's from, put it on the feed.
With you.
Put it on the feed. They're coming out with the second one now.
I got some Cremo stuff that put on it. Makes it smell like a lumberjack. It's good stuff.
All right. We got a lot of stuff to cover. A couple cool things we're going to talk about. We try to do local stuff that's going on and talk about. So everybody's sick these days, man.
Coronavirus.
Everybody.
Corona.
Our Coronas are certified virus free. So.
Oh, Caitlin's watching.
Caitlin is, Burrs? Mm-hmm. Caitlin. Caitlin's one of our karaoke girls. She's one of our hosts. I hired I didn't hire, but I mean, she's agreed to help out with karaoke, like our karaoke ambassador, Regina. So she's gonna recruit people to come in, and we're gonna do some cool promos and some cool things for karaoke. We're gonna get some props in there, wigs and little fake guitars, and just fun, goofy stuff. Try to stand out and be different, man. We got more competition on Wednesdays now.
We have a question on the board of who is the special guest?
Well, I typically wait till they show up to introduce them, but the special guest was supposed to be Chad Morrison from Perryville. He actually runs the Sparta Jiu-Jitsu up there, and I invited Chad to come in tonight because I wanted to talk briefly about something that he cares a lot about, which is personal safety and survival. Not in the big picture of the end of the world stuff, but more about personal stuff, about situational awareness and things like that. He teaches an anti-bullying class. He's really involved in the community up there in Perryville. He trains a lot of local guys in jiu-jitsu and MMA and stuff. So he was supposed to be on. I think he said he was going to try to get here. Might be here a little bit late, but we'll still be here for him. But it'll be interesting to have him come on because he's actually a pretty knowledgeable guy, and he's an outspoken guy too, kind of like all of us, really. I mean, Cody's about the most reserved among us, and he still speaks his mind. So.
You said Zach wrong, but I understand.
It depends on what we're talking about. If it's something I'm passionate about, I can get pretty outspoken.
You do. I'll give you that. Hey, move your mic up a little bit, like almost up to under your beard. It's weird how it. Okay, there works. Zach did that already too. So
Also, I'm a poser. Cool.
I'm super pumped to announce this about April. So I have a bucket list. Do you have a bucket list by chance, or do you just do crap when you want to do it?
I have a fuck it list.
I have a bucket list.
What's on your bucket list?
Most things.
Most things. Well, I have a bucket list, and it's really not so much before I die. It's more just things I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So I call it a bucket list because lack of any other title other than things to accomplish. And I wanted to make say bucket list because you give yourself an expiration, like you might die one day, so you need to get this stuff done. So one of them on there was to go on ghost hunts, like a real ghost hunt. And my big thing about watching ghost hunts in general on TV and hearing about them is they're hard to believe because it's all edited and camera angles and people that are there in the crew, you can't see them, that kind of stuff. And I just realized I don't know if I brushed my teeth today.
Tic Tac?
It's vanilla mint.
It's crazy. I know I brushed them, but it's like I can't remember if I did.
I brushed them twice.
Anyway, random thought.
Your teeth. I brushed your teeth.
Oh,
twice.
nice. Thank you. Thanks. Well, after what I did for you, you should have. Anyways, why we're talking about ghost hunts is because that was one of the things I wanted to accomplish before I passed on from this mortal coil. But so I went about researching as I do, and it took me a little time. But I've invited Zach. He's agreed to go with me. And we've got a couple other invites out to people. We're waiting to have confirmation on that. But I'm happy and excited to announce that we're going on our first official, bar sponsored, 55 South Entertainment sponsored ghost hunt in Ashmore, Illinois. It's for Ashmore Estates. I don't know if it's Ashmore, Illinois, if it's in Cole County, somewhere around there. I have to look it up, but it's Ashmore Estates in Illinois. It's about 3 hours and 25 minutes away. I posted something. I made an announcement about it, and it's a former poor farm. And if you don't know what a poor farm is, you can look it up. But basically, it was a place where people could go to have a place to stay, and they would work the farm, and kind of that's how they kept themselves alive and supported themselves. And they'd work the farm for the farmer, and they'd get a little bit of the crops. And typically, you'd have the poorest of the poor that would go there, a chance to have a livelihood. So they go there. And then after the poor farm shut down, it became a private hospital treatment place. Psychological place, basically. It was I'm not going to say a psych ward, but it was for destitute people. So you got some of the most downtrodden there. Very sad place. And then it was bought by the state, and the state tried to operate it in the early 1900s, mid-1900s, and it never really came through. They had some issues with ventilation and some other stuff, and they had a fire there. So it just basically, it sat open for so long, and then it's been bought by a couple different people. Now the current owner now is doing ghost hunts. He's allowing you to go and do a ghost hunt. I actually was turned on to this Ashmore by Ghost Hunts USA, which is a place I was going to go. We're going to go through, and we may still do that. But he said, you can call these places, and they usually do their own tours. So I thought, well, that'd be better not having to go on a tour group. I've subsequently found out that there will be other people there, but they won't be part of our group. So
It'd suck if they went missing.
I know. My thoughts exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know if anybody can see my eyebrow.
Right.
My thoughts exactly. But no, we're going to go. It's April 25th, and it's an overnight stay in an actual haunted house, but haunted place. Lots of they've done. Travel Channel's been there. A&E, several different ghost hunt shows have been there, and they've had some interesting. Hey, what's up, Ian? Some interesting experiences there. Now, my whole reason for wanting to go on ghost hunts is not the normal reason, because I'm skeptical. I'm a skeptic. So what I want to go on a ghost hunt, and I want to prove once and for all to me, and then anybody that believes that I'm pretty honest. If it's real, I will tell you, and if it's not, I'll say, okay, this is a bunch of bunk. There's nothing going on. And I figure taking you, because we're both very real about stuff, we could literally say, because we're going to video it all. So now I found out the Wi-Fi signal is really bad. So my idea of going live on Facebook is probably not going to happen, but we can record it. And we will go live on the trip there, and we'll talk about what we're going to be seeing, and I'll read a little bit about the place we're going to. Be a cool little ghost hunt experience. You might ask, why are we doing it through the bar? Well, why not? Because you go to a bar, it's the last place people can go and really talk about it. It's like the barber shop, It's the last place you can go and talk about anything. So I asked Zach to go with me, and of course I knew Zach would want to go. It's kind of right up your alley. And we got a couple other people. And so it should be a lot of fun. So that's April 25th we're going to go, and then we're going to try to go about every other month to a different place. There's a place in New Orleans I really wanted to go. I found it about 5 years ago. And my whole thing is I'm skeptical, but I want to believe, I want to see it, so I'm not closed-minded to it. It's how I am. I'm just like I'm about UFOs. I'm skeptical about UFOs because I've never seen them, but I'm open-minded to it. Like if you show me something, or if I see something, I'm going to be inclined.
Punch an alien in the face.
Well, I would too.
Mars Attacks 2 is being made, by the way.
What is?
Mars Attacks 2.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's cool. Well, I wondered because they had that commercial at the Super Bowl, and they had a bunch of movies in that one montage, and Mars Attacks was in there, and I'm kind of wondering because typically creative promotional advertising, they throw in little snippets in commercials to get your mind on it, and then now you tell me they're doing another one.
Well, look at I Am Legend.
Yeah.
Will Smith's movie.
Yeah.
When he's walking down and you see the billboard, it was Batman vs. Superman.
Batman vs. Superman, and then that movie came out. So I think studios, and they literally sell this to people. When you see a product in a movie, it's there for a reason. It's been conveniently and strategically placed there. I remember back in the 80s, the 80s is the generation I kind of Generation X, but they were so open about their product placement. They used to joke about it all the time on Saturday Night Live, but you would literally, they'd be doing an interview and somebody would be sitting here with like a Coke can like this, just holding it up to the camera the whole time, taking a drink. It's like, man, this Coke is delicious. It was so ridiculous. Now it's a little more strategic. Now it's like a billboard on a movie, or you'll see something blow across the screen, and then you'll see it go up against the fence, and it'll be a bag for like Walmart or something. It's stuff like that, and trust me, that stuff is all planned. So on this ghost hunt, what I want to do, my whole goal on this is not only for me. I don't know about you. Have you ever gone on a ghost hunt before, Zach?
I go to haunted cemeteries.
Those are cool.
And there's actually one in High Ridge area, High Ridge, House Springs area, and that I'm skeptical. I'm always a skeptic, but that one, I mean. So that was creepy as fuck.
What about you, Cody? You ever been on like a ghost hunt or a
gone to like creepy places and
creepy
stuff?
places?
Just
camping
out with kind of things.
I've actually had experiences that I believe are apparitions or spirits, but that again could it have been in my mind, and that's where I'm at. I want to see. The one thing I think it is about ghosts and UFOs and all of these mythical creatures that people talk about, oh, I've seen this and I've seen that, is not enough people see them. And then the people that do see them are a little wackadoo, It's always UFO sightings are always people in trailer parks and people in the middle of the night out with their girlfriend on Lover's Lane making out, and all of a sudden this bright light and they shoved something up our butt and took us on a spaceship. It's hard to believe
that
that's
order.
in that order.
Think of that Saturday Night Live with Kate McKinnon. Where
Oh yeah, no, that wasn't my experience. No, they started flipping my nipples and yeah.
So funny.
Go on YouTube and look up SNL Kate McKinnon UFO, and she plays that. The other two were talking about how awesome it was, and she goes, that wasn't my experience at all. They took turns batting my boobs around and like punching bags. But you have to watch that. But the whole reason ghost hunts and any kind of experience like that, it's first of all, it's to give you a new experience. I've never been on an actual ghost hunt where I've actually gone and looked for a ghost. I've been in situations where I think I was probably in a place that probably had something of that, remnants of spirits or specters, but you never know, right? And your mind plays so many tricks on you. Just the movie like Blair Witch Project, that was all made up, but when it came out, it was sold as this real experience. And people, it made a ton of money, just college kids that made it, but it was what the mind would do. Like our mind made us get to that point. And I think that's the psychological side of all of these myths and legends, like Bigfoot and all this stuff, is it's more about what our mind works up, for us to imagine than it is the actual truth of it. But if you could, if you went to a store, like in Stephen King movies, you go to these pawn shops and stuff, there's an old guy in the back going, you want to see Bigfoot? It's or Goosebumps, right? But I think every one of us, some of us don't really think about that stuff, but I think most of us, inquisitive-wise, most of us are kind of interested by nature and like the unknown. I would think most people would be, and it's amazing. I've asked a couple people to go on this ghost hunt with us, and they're, let me find out, let me think, let me find out. It's almost like they're resistant, and what I'm finding out is people are scared shitless to go on a ghost hunt.
No hesitation here.
Caitlin wants in.
Who, Macaulay?
No, Caitlin Briss. She says, I've been on a couple, I'm serious, I want in.
So basically what it is, I wanted to have 2 guys and 2 girls. And I wanted to have, the reason I'd said that is strategically, I wanted to have me kind of guiding what we're doing and then have you as kind of with me, and then I wanted to have 2 gender female-wise, because I wanted to have, there's one that I've asked, actually works here, that is kind of into that kind of stuff.
Of course.
And then I've asked a couple others, and I was looking for some people to get reactions. I want to see what people really feel, because sometimes people can be more in touch with that stuff. So sometimes your mind's more open, or you're more in touch with that the supernatural. And I think therein lies the rub. Is I think sometimes they tell us, the people that are that believe in this and that have seen it or said they've seen it or pro or supportive of it, say, well, if you didn't see it or it didn't happen for you, you're not open, your mind's not open enough. But that's my problem is it shouldn't take an open mind to see a ghost. If there's a UFO or a ghost, it doesn't matter who sees it, it should be there for everybody. And this is my thing, even this place we're going, Ashmore, I watched some videos on it, and the things that have happened there have all been kind of sketchy, like maybe they happened, because there's always a film crew going, and the film crew says, oh, this happened, and they're like, oh, and then they hear something getting thrown across the room. Well, we don't know if it's somebody behind the camera doing it. Well, what I want to do is I want to video everything we do, and I want us to be all in front of the camera.
We are the film crew.
Yeah, we are the film crew, and I want to be in front of the camera, so there's no way possible where anybody can say, oh, there was somebody behind the camera doing it. No, there will be some other people there, but we're going to go off on our own and do our own thing, and I really want to, see what we can find out. And if there's something really there, I want to report that it's really there. I mean, I don't want to crap on somebody's belief or crap on Ashmore Estates, but the bottom line is I want to know if it's real, and everybody else should want it. So
want the truth.
Yeah, I want the truth. So we're gonna do a Wi-Fi. We're gonna do like a live Facebook Live thing, but turns out the Wi-Fi, because we're in the middle of nowhere out there, the Wi-Fi out there is terrible. I talked to the owner of the building, so we'll record it all, and we'll do some live on the way there and stuff. So anyway, that's April 25th, and we'll be there till from 7 p.m. to 10 a.m. So it'll be pretty cool. So, speaking of myths and craziness, I read an article about this couple in Montana. It actually was Montana. That dressed up like Bigfoot.
Hell yeah.
They both dressed up like Bigfoot, and they went in the woods to have sex. It's not a joke.
And
they got shot by a hunter.
Yes.
Because he thought he saw 2 Bigfoot having sex.
So rather than let more Bigfoot exist,
Yeah.
fuck it, I want it from a wall.
Well, I think, and that's the thing is, I think Bigfoot's at this level now, just like the Loch Ness Monster and other ones, Missouri Momo and the what's the
Chupacabra.
Yeah, Chupacabra and then Abominable Snowman, those type of things, Yetis and all that. I think they've reached at a level now, especially with Bigfoot. Bigfoot's the hide and seek champion, man. That dude, girl, guy, or whatever it is. If there is a Bigfoot, they're really good at not being.
I think, as the American people, we need to kick in every single door with the last name of Henderson,
We'll find him.
and we will find them.
Yeah. So there's been and that's the thing is, I think because myths get made fun of, people kind of just laugh about them. But I want to know. I really do. Like, before I die, I want to know: is there Bigfoot? Are there UFOs? I can see all these reports on these channels about UFO reports and Area 51 and all this kind of stuff. But my main thing is I really actually want to know.
Yeah.
And then I can say to people, that stuff's real, and I want to, because I'm one of those people. I want to be approved. But anyway, the guy shot one, and the other member of the group. Part of the escapades in the woods she didn't get shot. So the guy got shot, and can't imagine where he got shot at, but I just want to talk about for a minute sexual fantasies that people have. What in the world?
Furries, man.
We both looked at Cody. You're the
furry.
No, you're not furry. But start talking about sexual, fun. You're the only one really doing that right now.
Connoisseur of that. So
Yeah, you are. So
Hi, Mom.
What's the freakiest? What's the freakiest, weirdest place you've ever had an encounter?
Fuck, I don't know. Fuck, a lot of places. Cemeteries.
Cemeteries isn't weird. That's kind of cool.
I mean, I think
Because you put fear and sex. I mean, that's why horror movies always have young couples having sex.
Sure.
Well, they die too, but I mean, that's why they always have that. Huh?
I don't know, dressing rooms. Fucking, I don't know.
Dressing
I've
rooms?
had sex in so many places.
So
Give me a break.
one of my exes, long before my wife, but one of my exes, we had this thing where we wanted to. We used different verbiage here, but to make love to the alphabet. And what we mean is we would find locations that started with the letter A, B, C, and D, and we would have sex in those locations. So we started skipping around because we'd see something like, ooh, that's T, or ooh, that's M. And I guess my most risky or something, I guess you could say, would be on the elevator at St. Francis Hospital here in Cape. And we didn't even push stop. We just took it to the third or fourth floor, and then we closed the door real quick before, and we went back down. But it was really just for the thrill of doing it.
Sure.
And when you're young and having fun, you don't care. But yeah, that was probably my most risky. Now there was one where, same girlfriend, we rented a limo. I rented a limo so we could drive through town, and she was being kind to me. I'll put it that way. She was being how a woman's kind to a man, and we didn't realize it because I was standing up through the sunroof, the moonroof. I was standing up, kind of just going while this was going on, and what I didn't realize is that our side window was about halfway down, and a carload of kids. This is in Evansville, Indiana, too. There was a carload of kids right next to us, and they started going, "I see someone," and they called out what was going on, and I look over, and they're looking down, and I went like this, because this is at the time in my life, I was like, yeah! But anyway, Zach,
therapy bills.
Zach, where's your, where would you say is your riskiest or craziest place you've ever...
It's a tie between a church on Sunday and the park in Fenton.
Parks are always risky because you never know who's
It was
going to
right
come
on
along.
the playground. There was a fucking bridge.
I've had the playground. Yeah.
And the bridge was great because you just start
You gotta
going.
be careful
the
with
bridge
those, 'cause
figures.
then you're a sex offender.
I know,
Well, you do them. You got to do it at night when there's no kids there.
but I mean, like in the same sense though, in high school, I fucked in my high school in the lecture hall.
Well, I think that's pretty normal.
Yeah, I mean that's risky as well.
So, and you said something about church.
There was a church on Sunday morning. Yeah,
Where at?
Illinois.
No, was it in the church?
Yes.
Oh, you are going to hell. In the church?
No, it was just I was helping with prayer. They were saying, "Oh God." So
listen,
that's
I met
kind
a
of
girl.
sad.
I met a girl at the fair one year at SEMO District Fair, and I realized this is when I first realized that some females were just as aggressive as males when it came to sex. And she flat out told me, "said Take me somewhere." So I did. The closest place that I don't know why it ended up here, but it was at. I'm not going to name the church, but it was in there. I was on their outdoor basketball court.
Mine was dead ass in the church.
Was it?
No shame.
No.
No regrets. Not even.
I did go to church one morning because I was helping with the younger kids. Like we were, the older kids like do mentor stuff. I did go to church one morning drunk.
Yeah, I've done that.
I got dropped off about a half a mile from church early Sunday morning. And this is I was supposed to be there by like 8:30 to do like a 30-minute like.
Saturday night was a motherfucker.
Oh, it was terrible. I hadn't been to bed, and I remember back in the 80s they had these shorts called jams. I don't know if you or what they are, but they were like surfer skateboard inspired shorts.
Board shorts.
Well, yeah, they were down past the knees.
Yeah.
Right. So they were called board shorts, but we called them jams. It was I guess it was a brand of them, and they had these. They were black and white, and the black was like big flowers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool pair of shorts. And I remember it had one pocket in the front and one in the back, like opposite sides. I don't know why that was.
You had 2 beers.
I did.
Yeah,
I did. So I'm walking, and it's cold. Like, it's November, early morning November, and this is when there was actual winter here. And I remember getting dropped off about a half a mile, and I was still blitzed because I had just been drinking, and of course I was young too. And so I knew I had to go to church because if I didn't go, my mom would be like, "Where were you at?" And I promised her that I would stay the night at so and so's house, and then, so they dropped me off about a half a mile. It was cold outside, so I used the cold to kind of wake myself up. And I was so tired, so I laid down. And this was actually whatever this little park over here that they fixed the basketball court on and stuff right over here, that little side park. I laid down. There's a picnic table there, and I laid down on the picnic table and tried to get about 15 minutes of sleep. And you do that real tired thing where you're just kind of dozing off, and I did that, and I woke up, and I went to church pretty buzzed, pretty drunk, and then we were doing miming that day. We were being mimes, and I was doing a clown in a windstorm. This is what I had to mime that day, and I was drunk. So imagine like a 17-year-old me having to, much skinnier of course, having to. Oh, and I had a curly mullet.
So you were gonna say mullet.
Yes, so I had curly on top and then longer in the back. So it was like I had a little white boy fro.
So ultimately, people would just look at you and be like, "Oh, this guy fucks."
Yeah, like I used to get my hair done a certain way because whatever girls would say, "Oh, you know what you should do with your hair," and so I would do that. I get influenced by girls around me because I was trying to get as much as I could. Anyway, and I didn't have a dad around, so next thing I know, I got.
So you went and got a perm.
Yeah, I went and got a perm. Girls dug it, man, and I didn't have a great head of hair for it, but I did have hair at the time. But anyway, I go to church and go downstairs where the kids are at, and they're like, Eric, and I am literally blurry drunk, and they hand me this hat, and the hat's got all these pieces of paper in it, and so they're like, pick something out, Eric, and I'm like, okay, and I'm trying to act like I'm playing, like I'm drunk, and I don't know that anybody knew. Nobody said anything to my mom at the time, so I reach in, I pull the piece of paper out, it says, clown in a windstorm. And I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do here? And I was trying to be, how you kind of stand up stiff and everything. And I remember that one of the ladies that was running it was a real close friend of my family, and I was like, oh, she's gonna know, she's gonna tell my grandpa and grandma and all that stuff. Well, then nobody ever told her anything. So I did the clown thing, and I remember there's one where I was grabbing on one of the stanchions down in the basement and acting like the wind was blowing me, and literally I kicked my legs up and I went and smacked on the ground. Everybody thought I was being so into it. They were like, oh man, it looks so real. I'm like, it is real. So
I'm just drunk and thought I could fly.
Yeah, bad experience there. What about you, Cody?
For what? What's the question?
Just crazy experience with something where you were on the verge of embarrassment, but you had to follow.
Like literally my life.
You had to follow through on it.
Fuck.
You sound so negative when you do that.
What? I'm always
My
on
life.
embarrassment.
It's my life.
I think that's
You're
just
not
that's my
embarrassing.
demeanor. Like
You're not
right
embarrassing.
Now, usually, I don't give a fuck about being embarrassed. Fuck. I'm trying. Go to Zach first. Let me come back to it.
Go to Cody first. I don't know.
Okay, we'll come back to it. It's fine. So let's move on. So Trump got acquitted. Well, not acquitted.
No, let's revert.
Yeah, let me think of something real quick.
The thing is though,
I knew that would bring you back if I said Trump got acquitted.
Oh, you already know my stance on it.
Yeah, I know.
Acquittal.
My ass got acquitted. But No, ultimately, like for me, I have social anxiety. So like anytime I have to go up and do something,
Which is
it's real
so
awkward.
odd, man.
Oh, I know, but like, all right, so
Because you're a stand-up comedian, and when you're in the bar, you like talk to everybody.
absolutely, but I control the situation when I talk.
Oh, okay.
So it's easy for me to just constantly talk because no one else can talk. So it's the Zach show.
Oh, okay.
But no, I'd have to say there was this. All right, so one of my mas, if you will, she's a hairdresser. It's Corey's ma, right? Uh-huh. She's a hairdresser. There was a really, really fucking cute girl next door at the Penn Station. And Corey and I were standing outside, we're smoking, we're talking, and this girl comes out for a smoke break. And I look at Corey, I'm like, dude, man, she's fucking good. He's like, dude, go get it. So she's like, oh, you guys brothers? I'm like, yeah, we are. And she's like, wow, you look alike, but at the time, like, I had a beard, he didn't, so like there was a little difference. I'm like, yeah, no, we were like birthed. And I start pretty much mimicking birthing a child with my hand. I'm like, we came out of our mom's womb. We just crawled out. It was like, what's up, girl?
We just crawled out.
She put her cigarette out after. I mean, she pretty much just immediately lit it. She's like, I got to go back to work. And Corey asked me, he's like, man, how do you think they went? I'm like, I think it went well.
How do you clean yourself up?
Cody, you got one?
Fuck no.
So Trump got acquitted.
Yeah. So the only reason I wanted to bring that up is so we can move on from it. It's all done now. Like the whole thing. Like everybody kind of knew what was going to happen, but it's over. Let's move on. Let's start doing some work and get some things done.
Yeah, like getting Pelosi the fuck out of there.
You know what? I wanted to actually mention something about that. So this big controversy now on conservative talk and Fox News and several other places where she ripped up his speech, right? So this is supposed to be this monumental insult and disrespect to everybody in the speech. Okay, let's just look. I like being real about stuff. I don't like Nancy Pelosi. You know my stance.
Of course.
But let's just be real. She ripped up a piece of paper. It was a signifier.
It is illegal. She broke the law.
It's not illegal.
It is
Stupid.
under Article 18.
I know, but look, we're talking about Washington, D.C. has run amok. And
Don't care.
And we just spent.
I demand a witch hunt now.
We just spent 3 years dealing with.
I got a chuckle out of you.
Crap with the president, right? Whatever side you fall on, and now there's going to be all of these get back controversies. No, I don't want it. I don't care. She ripped up a speech. What did you expect?
Right.
She sits there and rolls her eyes and
But
makes
she
faces.
ripped up a speech. What's next? She's going to rip up the Post-it notes. Where does it stop, Eric?
So Vice President Pence, Mike Pence was on an interview show and he said in this real serious face, I don't know if she ripped up the speech or the U.S. Constitution. I'm like, oh, dude, come on, man. So here's my thing. Let's stop with all the, they did this and you did this. Let's just do business, man. Let's just get it done.
I can't do it. She ripped that up.
No,
now she's going to start stealing staples from the office supply closet. Where does it stop?
You should see my supplies.
First you have defamation of government property. Now you have theft on a federal level. I mean, come on. Someone needs to teach her a lesson.
So Pelosi said in an interview that that was the best thing that she could have done, or the most courteous thing she could have done, as opposed to what would have been the alternative. Which I don't know what the alternative would have been, was wad it up and throw it at him, or I don't know what it would have been.
Which still would have been funny as fuck.
Oh well, and that's the thing is, I'm watching everything now like a soap opera, like a reality show.
Absolutely.
And here's the thing, I think that's what a lot of people have a problem with Trump, because he brings this reality show type of behavior to Washington, D.C., but the problem is they've always had it.
Right.
Like, I love it when politicians talk about the what's the word? It's below the decorum of the position and it's disrespectful. First of all, no. Second of all, there's been so many different candidates in that office that have done things that are so detrimental to this country. So if you really want to talk about what's right and what's wrong, quit worrying about her ripping up a speech. I could care less, man. That just gives credence to it, and interviewing and asking her questions about it.
It's the first time we've disagreed. It's the first time we've disagreed.
It's the first time we've agreed. You could give two less shits.
I could give two craps about Nancy Pelosi ripping up a speech. I really don't care. It just, look, she showed her hand. She showed what she's about, but she feels like she's doing exactly what Trump's doing. In her mind, she's looking at Trump going, well, he does the same crap all the time. So screw it. I'm just going to play along right with it. You know, he's doing this. And plus she's pissed off. She just spent 3 years thinking she was going to.
But now it's going to be complete anarchy. People's dicks are going to be sucked in the Oval Office again.
Can we get back to that?
This is a breadcrumb situation.
Can we get back to just
Eventually we're going to have a
BJ's.
whole loaf of fuckery.
Can we get back to just BJ's in the Oval Office? I'd like to get back to that
Absolutely.
stuff. You know, and weapons of mass destruction when there's nothing
Sure.
there. Can we get back to that kind of like event stuff and not made up shit? Like, let's get back to stuff that really happens. Like ghost hunts. I want Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump to go on a ghost hunt together.
Oh, sure. Cool with the ghost
There's
hunt.
about to be some ghosts.
Trump was like, I saw one. No, you didn't. He was huge.
Okay.
It was a huge ghost, Nancy. President Trump, it was not.
Cool ghost hunts, but not witch hunts. Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Witch hunt. It's becoming folly. It's becoming Saturday Night Live in Washington. It's been that way for a while, but now it's becoming normal for people to report on the ridiculousness.
I think we have to throw the whole book at her. It's only fair. And we need to spend 3 years on it.
Okay, so there is a line of thinking for people that believe that think, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You need to, if she's going to do things she's not supposed to do, she needs to be dealt with.
Sorry, it was booger.
Yeah.
Nerds.
But who wants to? I don't want to mess with it.
It's not worth anybody's fucking time, nor the American taxpayers' dollars for this.
Any of it.
I was trying to say situation, but my mind was trying to say shitstorm.
Well,
so
I'd say shitstorm's a pretty good good description of it. So
Washington's a shithole.
It is. It's a big shithole. So we just had the Super Bowl on Sunday. Actually, a really good Super Bowl.
We had a concert with a game in the middle.
I know. I, for one, I was super happy with the halftime show for obvious reasons, but also because I think it was a great, produced well show. Like there were not a lot of errors.
Absolutely.
It was decent music. Two very attractive women were up there, and they were showing their Latin heritage and doing fun. And I'm all cool with that. That's awesome. I don't understand the critics and people talking about...
I'm starting a petition for the next halftime show.
Who do you want on the next one?
I want the circle of feminists who flare their dresses up and just yell at the sky. I want 14 minutes of that.
So there were so many different things about the halftime show. So first of all, why everybody tries to make things political.
Sure.
And it's a game, and it's an entertainment aspect.
Absolutely.
Stop making it political. So Jennifer Lopez comes out with a Puerto Rican... it was supposed to be a Puerto Rican flag, but it was like a rat or a mink.
I think it was absolutely ridiculous how she did that, personally.
The other side of it was the American flag.
Well, I got no problem with the flag. My problem is, you know how many chickens she fucking killed for that feathered flag?
I don't think it was real feathers.
Chicken lives matter.
I think it was faux feathers. They make faux feathers out of plastic. I don't think it was real feathers.
Oh, now she's just going to kill the fucking turtles.
It's not turtles, man. It's probably recycled goods.
That plastic's going to end up in that ocean, and she's going to kill the turtles.
So she comes out with that. So then you got people talking about, why did she have the American flag showing it? She did. It was on the opposite side of it.
Puerto Rico is part of America. It's been part of America since the early 1900s.
And Jennifer Lopez has a lot of heritage with Puerto Rico. Just like if Prince came out and put his big symbol on the field. I don't care. Those are my two favorite halftime shows: Prince and now J-Lo and
Prince
Shakira.
was amazing.
I don't know what Shakira. I found out what Shakira was doing with her tongue was like a tribal thing. It was something.
I don't like that. Put your tongue back in your mouth.
Right?
Yeah, it was a thing that they do like when they danced, because all the dances they were doing were all Latin infused. They were all from their countries and stuff they do. And a lot of women were talking about how it was demeaning and all this objectified. And I said, no, it's powerful, man. Women get up there and dance like that.
You have to look at
control.
the culture.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a culture where you have a fucking week-long situation called festival.
Yeah.
Where they're dressed even more risque.
Yeah.
We don't say shit about that's their culture.
Yeah.
Their culture. We're misconstruing it as sexual because America's a bunch of fucking prudes. In reality, their culture is nothing but sensuality. I mean, it's to seduce. It's to bring that.
Well, that's what. So here's what people think when women dance seductively, that they're trying to say, come have sex with me. That's not what it is, man. In Latin countries, that kind of dance is a celebration of a heritage, right? Of a much longer than the United States.
Right.
And it's also a celebration of the power of a woman to kind of mesmerize.
And as a cis male, I say thank you.
Yeah, I mean, look, any man that watched that and went, oh my goodness, no, look, I think we can all agree that both of those women are, not only are they super attractive, very talented, have had a big impact in culture. So I'm a huge J-Lo. I've always liked J-Lo. I've liked J-Lo since In Living Color.
I'm on the Shakira side.
Well, I like Shakira too, but Shakira's kind of been out of the limelight for a while. But J-Lo stays relevant, man. She's a super talented, smart person. Of course, she's dating a former Yankee. So
fuck him.
Yeah, well, yeah, he's a controversial guy, but I'm a Yankee fan, so that's cool. But anyway, I was cool with the halftime show the way it was. I was excited, and I know Chris Monroe was talking about. We were talking about hashtag wardrobe malfunction.
Hell yeah.
Some of you may not know this, or you may, but back if you go to
Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, what was that? That was
Janet.
10 years ago or more.
At least, yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was
but
way
yeah,
longer than
Janet
10.
Jackson and Justin Timberlake were doing a halftime show, and Janet Jackson's bustier, her top, popped open. And
at the words of "I'm gonna have you naked" when I finish the song.
That's right. I'm gonna have you naked by the end of this song. So yeah, and he pulled one flap, which is supposed to show a smaller, and the whole thing came off. And she immediately noticed, and she put her hand up.
Absolutely.
But ever since then, man, people have been waiting for stuff to happen on halftime shows.
So late now, it'll never happen again. Anyway.
No, it'll never happen. And so my wife was showing me a picture. There was one where J-Lo had this, what she was wearing, right? It was leather, it was some material, really like almost like a strip of duct tape.
Yep.
And she was saying, and there was a bunch of memes going around. Women were discussing, like, how did you get that to stay there?
Body tape.
Yeah. How did you get that to stay in? I always look at guys. I'm like, please don't come in here.
Right.
You don't need to come in here.
We don't want your kind.
But anyway, so I was cool with the halftime show. But I do want to bring up, we joke and we have a lot of fun with stuff. But one thing I do want to talk about, some of the ads. Everybody always, that's part of the enjoyment of the Super Bowl, what ads are going to be run. And we noticed, we were down here for the Super Bowl. Chris was bartending, I was down here. We did some gumbo and stuff. And one thing we noticed was the first 10 ads or so, there's no comedy. It was all like serious, touching ads, which is fine. I love the one with the old guy talking about his wife so he wouldn't forget her.
Cool.
All the stuff because he has Alzheimer's, so he was reminding himself she loves this flower and she liked to do this, and then Alexa, or it was Google would remind him the stuff that his wife liked so he could remember her, and I thought it was very touching. But we kind of joked and we were a little irritated because I always look for the Dorito ads and Geico's and the funny stuff, right? Well, there wasn't a lot until probably the first 3 or 4 commercial breaks, and then they had a couple. They had one with Jason Momoa, was really good. Did you see the one where he took his muscles off? Mm-mm. Oh, that was hilarious, man.
No, the only one I actually saw was the Bryan Cranston one.
Oh yeah,
redoing The Shining.
Doing Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Mountain Dew.
Yep.
It was
sugar-free.
It was really good, but it was uncomfortable because it was Mountain Dew.
It's just weird.
It just didn't really go together. I get Shining and Dr. Sleep came out or whatever, but I don't know, man.
It just makes me want Bryan Cranston to be in a remake of it, though.
Bryan Cranston is one of those guys that he can do comedy or horror
super
or drama.
Versatile actor.
He's super intelligent. I heard they were working on a Breaking Bad movie.
That's what I heard.
Knockoff or something on it. So here's this guy just wandering around out here.
In galoshes.
Yeah.
Hit him.
Yeah, he walked down here drinking. He's stumbling in the street. This might be the first time that you actually get to see me tell somebody they can't come in on live on. Okay, no, he's not coming in. All right.
Oh, it's the same dude.
Is it?
It's the same dude.
That's what I was thinking.
What do you mean, same dude?
We kicked this guy out the other night. I got a message from Dustin at Rude Dog saying that he got kicked out of Rude Dog for starting a fight with Garrett, and then he went over here, and I wouldn't let him in. Zach immediately came over and told me I had to leave, and he started to argue
it
with
was
us.
on Tuesday.
Then he went to the library, and the bouncer told him he couldn't go, so he tried to run behind the bar and slipped and fell and all this stuff. Like, he got kicked out of, like, every bar that night.
Yeah. Well,
living his best life.
Well, that's the thing is we're downtown. Like I said, these big windows are like big screen TVs,
Absolutely.
man. We get to see all this stuff happen. But anyway, so one thing I did want to talk about on Super Bowl ads, there was one ad that didn't get shown. I don't know if you heard about this.
Cannabis ad.
Yeah, it was a, and I actually saw the ad. They showed the ad on YouTube, and then they were on some of the pages. But it was basically a commercial, an ad about the benefits of medical marijuana. For it showed what happened actually showed when this kid, teenage kid, took medical cannabis, and how it stopped his seizures, and how he has numerous seizures every day, and they didn't know what he was taking all these meds, and doctors were trying to do whatever they could. Nothing was working, and basically seizures can kill you eventually.
Yep.
They shake you up and kill you and ruin your nervous system. And so they got on medical marijuana, and within 15 minutes, he's almost tremor free,
Right.
and he's smiling and talking to his mom. And he's so damaged that his muscles have been damaged by the seizure, so he's kind of bent up. They wouldn't show the ad. The Super Bowl, the NFL, and whoever else wouldn't show the ad, and yet they show all of these. And this is what bothered me. They show all these liquor ads, all the
Right.
beer commercials, and all this stuff. So here's my thing: if you're going to, if something is important like that, I don't understand mass media, and I don't understand companies that try to hide that stuff. We're still stuck in this mindset of cannabis and marijuana is bad. It's not bad, man. It's more and more people every day are getting lots of relief from that, man. Like there's prime example. There was a short documentary. It was like 12 minutes long. I saw it on Vice or somewhere, but it was called Grandma Cannabis or Grandma something. But it's basically this lady that had rheumatoid arthritis,
Yeah.
and I'm talking
Yeah.
pain just the worst. She could not get out of a chair, so she started using medical grade cannabis at real high levels. She actually could straighten her hands out. She could actually stand up. It's complete. And she says, "I feel almost no pain." She goes, "I'm high, but I feel almost no pain." And she said, "I can't work." And she's an older lady, but she said, I still have critics, people that say something. "Oh, you're always getting high." Well, look. You need to give yourself some type of a quality of life, right? That's all we at least need to give ourselves that. And I'm all for someone seeking alternative medicine to help themselves. And I think it's been politicized. It's been so political, and so it's used to kind of take sides. Look, I can look at this kid that on this video, and I can root for this kid all I want, but unless we're going to do something positive for him, where it gives him some type of relief, and his family, I mean, you see his mom with him the whole time, and she's narrating some of it, and she's crying while she's narrating, just telling about it.
Right.
And I read a book, there's a book, the name of the book was Eric, it was ERIC, and it was about a kid with leukemia, and his mom wrote the book, and it's really thick, it's like 600, 700 pages, but I read it one time at the Cape Public Library, and it was devastating, man. She chronicled everything that happened with her kid, and how he would go into remission, and then how that would fall back off, and we talked about the other day about something, but what I want to say to politicians, while you're all sitting there playing all these political games and ripping up speeches and making deals with other countries, whatever you're going to do, you're forgetting the American people, and you're forgetting what's important. We need to get back to what's important. And one thing that I think is important, man, is finding something that can make people's quality of life better. And if it's something as simple as getting somebody a prescription for medical grade marijuana, when it's a plant that grows, should be available to everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm all for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, if my wife or one of my daughters had a need for it, I don't care where I got it at.
But
I'd rather get it legally, where it's not me hiding, having to sneak around to get it. That's the most asinine thing is, and in some states that people are using marijuana to help themselves, they're having to sneak around and buy it like from drug dealers, and they're risking getting arrested. It's asinine, man. We should be past all that by now. We should. So, I think we should get high and go on the ghost hunt.
Okay.
You said.
I mean, drugs are bad, okay?
Yeah. So, Cody.
Yeah, I mean,
Cody, I don't ask a lot about, we don't talk about our personal life too much. We got a little personal earlier with funny stuff, but I mean, what is your stance? I mean, I know we've talked about it before about, using alternative medicine to help yourself do better. But, somebody put that in the phones and it's still working? That's interesting. Here I am thinking it always had to be on the monosend, so it probably sounds better tonight.
I just put it in headphones. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Well, I mean, it works. It's still going to the same thing,
Yeah.
so it's got to work. So, anyway, we're getting readings, and we heard the audio on the thing, so Cody, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What are my stances on medical marijuana?
Yeah, and really any drug, because now they're talking about mushrooms and microdosing
and stuff like that. I think if something has more benefits than drawbacks, and if it's not hurting anybody, and it's not making...
What do you mean by hurting? What do you mean by hurting anybody?
In the sense that there are certain drugs you can do, like coke and meth, and
so that's a good point. I'm glad you said that. So I'm the same way. PCP and drugs like that are chemically made in labs. But I think the difference that I look at, the distinction...
But they also take a horrible toll on your body, you know what I mean?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Marijuana and mushrooms
has almost zero adverse effects.
Almost
other
zero.
Than the fact, maybe the resin that gets collected in your lungs as you smoke it, that kind of thing. But there's ways around that. You can do edibles now. Like there's ways around that completely. I think if something's helping you and it's not hurting anybody, there's no reason why you shouldn't be implementing it to better a nation. And there's obviously plenty of states in our nation that are doing it and seeing good results from it and getting huge amounts of income from selling it legally, that kind of thing. What's taking so long for this country to turn around and realize that this is a beneficial thing, not a hindrance? You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. And so I'm strong on this. So I hope, I know Missouri has they working on the medical marijuana right now, getting it all set, and I know they have some dispensaries approved and they're licensing and the holding facilities. It's all caught up in processing and paperwork, but I'll be glad when this country, the whole country, starts to open up their eyes to letting people.
I think it'll be federally lifted soon. I think it's kind of in that spot.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think it will too, and I think you have to keep up the fight. I think a lot of it has to do with not letting up. I mean, and that has to do with a lot of things. When people are fighting for women's rights and fighting for LGBTQ rights and fighting for the rights of minorities, you can't stop. It's a constant, battle, and you got to keep up with it. And I think that's how it's going to be with this is alternative medicine and stuff. I mean, I want doctors that tell me, look, here's a list of things, right? And these things we know can help. And I think medical grade marijuana should be on there. And when
instead of here's some hydrocodones, go vegetate about it. You know what I mean?
Let's get you hooked on opioids, and let's have you have health problems from that, and then be part of a system of in jail and in treatment and all that. No, look, I know a lot of people that smoke marijuana. We know a lot of them. They're functioning people. They go to work, they go to school, they have families, and they do just fine. And that's what I'm saying is there are way more people that are smoking marijuana anyway or taking it anyway and functioning very normal that you don't even know. You go to any company, any doctor's office, any company, and there are people somewhere that are partaking. So I'm big on that. So you are watching Session Stream Live from Shaker's Bar downtown Cape. I'm here with my hey, you want to grab me a Coke if you don't mind?
Wow.
Actually a Coke.
Weird, but okay.
Yeah. My belly's a little upset.
Grab it on my way back.
The sinuses. Can you get through there?
Hold on, big boy.
So we are almost at 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry. Aaron posts on here. He's like, I'll never take away a woman's right to make a good sandwich. Somehow we got on women's right in the chat.
Well, I think so. In the chat, so make a good sandwich. So I think we talked about two very attractive women at halftime, and then we talked about smoking pot. So I think those two went together, thinking sexy woman, smoking pot. I want a sandwich.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about that for a second. Talk about when a certain group of people take a word that is usually negative and they turn it into a positive. Like, for example, women have taken the word bitch and made it a positive. Like the song from Lizzo that you love so much. I just took a DNA test, found out I'm 100% that bitch. Now, in that case, it's a term of empowerment.
Could have had a bad bitch.
Non-committal, help you with your career. Anyway, Why did we just
Fucking burn.
no? So no, I just want to talk about. I think
We had to lose Kobe and not her.
yeah, we had to lose Kobe and not her.
My statement stands.
Is that what you said?
That is exactly what I said.
So wait. So I forgot. So on open mic night, you know Mel, right? Little cutie Mel, sweet kid. She comes in. She's a college kid. She comes in and does open mic. She's actually really talented, and she knows about the ghost hunt. She said her mom's really into that stuff. She watches all the shows and stuff, and she's into it. So she calls her mom like at 10:30. I'm like, you calling your mom at 10:30? I'm like, are you sure? Yeah. She calls her, and the first thing her mom asks is, what kind of spirits are these? And I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, well, are they the kind that will attach to you when you leave? And I said, I'm thinking in my head, she's way more advanced than I am. I'm just a novice going to a crazy dark place, old building to see if I can see any crazy stuff get thrown around so I can report it to people. She's talking about, will they attach to you? And then I was like, I had to come up with an answer. So I said, no, according to the guy that owns the building, these are peaceful spirits that want to stay in the building. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I don't know that anybody's. I guess there's a thought process when you go around ghosts that you see. If you watch a lot of movies, there's the part of the movies in lore where they talk about spirits can attach themselves to you, kind of to your spirit, and follow you wherever you go. And
right.
They talk about and I don't want to degrade anybody that's ever had a poltergeist experience, but I just thought it was funny because she asked about. Will they attach to you? And I'm like, I don't know.
You ever see the Triple X parody Poltergeist?
Yes.
It's hilarious.
So I also found it ironic, and this is the part, there are some reports of ghosts that have sex with people. You ever heard these stories?
Yeah, I have.
Porn ghosts, they call them. Typically it happens to women, but it has happened to men, where they stay in a room, and then during the night, they are basically raped by a ghost. And every movie, though, if you look at The Shining, if you look at 13 Ghosts, if you look at a lot of, not 13, was it 13 Ghosts? Yeah. If you look at a lot of horror movies that have poltergeists and spirits, there's always a sexual connotation.
Scary
to
Movie
it.
2?
Yeah, that's a legit movie. But there's always in every scary movie that has ghosts in it, there's always this sexual lean to it. Like, I don't know if is it fear and sex go together? And
yes.
Is it? It's weird, man. It's how thinking about being raped by a ghost. Would you tell?
See the latest new thing?
Would you tell anybody?
I would willingly do it.
If you were raped by a ghost, would you tell anybody?
Well, I actually believe in paranormal forces, and I feel like that's like a fucking thing. So.
Oh, you do believe?
Yeah.
Come sit down.
Mic up.
Come on. We'll put you on here for a minute. Yep. Come here. We'll put you in here for a minute. Put this up there. Come here. All right, so tell us now, what did you just say?
Well, I believe in paranormal activity.
Okay.
First of all, I've been the #1 haunted house in America, the Whaley House, which is in San Diego, Missouri.
So a legitimate haunted house.
Yes, it is on an Indian burial ground, which they savagely murdered over 400 Native Americans.
Wow.
And also the Whaley family, who also built the house, which was also a courthouse where they hung people. Over 38 members of their family died, committed suicide, or unexplainable murder.
Wow. So you've been there, and so
in relation to the Clintons?
So you've actually honestly experienced activity.
Yes, actually, I have.
You've seen stuff.
As a child, my grandparent was a captain on the river, and on one of the boats that he got transferred to, there was a captain who died driving the river.
Yeah.
He had a heart attack, and there was always activity. And in our family, due to like many people that say they're mediums or whatever, just say there's, my great grandma would refer to it as we were born with a veil over our face. So
Which means what?
We can sense other presence or anything.
So you're a they call it an afterlife empath or something like that, where you actually are people. Yeah, meeting people that are more in touch with.
I wouldn't say a medium because I tend to block that sense of energy out. But if you hand me an object by somebody that passes away, I can tell you what they're feeling or they're meaning.
So we were talking about this earlier because we're going on a ghost hunt through the bar. Jack's going with me, and we're going over to Ashmore Estates, and place that's had activity before. And I'm going because I'm a skeptic, but I also want to know.
Well, you have to have something that attracts the activity. Like for you to get something, you can't just send any old Norm or anybody because they feed off people's energy. That's how they
that's my energy. Thing. That's my thing.
Bring a cat. They're half in, half
out.
Bring
I heard it. Bring an animal. Doesn't matter. Like if you bring a dog will tell you where stuff's at.
Well, if you're wanting to look like in voodoo, or something, you would bring a chicken foot or
right. So here's my whole thing. I think this is what makes it so hard for. There's a lot of people that believe in that stuff, but this is the reason I wanted to do this is I want to prove or disprove it, and my whole point to this is there are a lot of people like you that have had experiences and truly believe in it, right? Yeah. So I don't want to discount how you think. My thing is I want to prove it to myself. I want to see it because I've had things that I think are what it is. So I'm empathic towards human beings. I can feel other people's energy and how they are. So I figure that I'll be a little more open to this kind of to that spiritual energy.
Right.
My thing is like you said, you got to have something that attracts the ghost.
Right.
My thing about that is I think that's probably why a lot of people have kind of doubts about it because there are always conditions on seeing stuff. And that's where I think, same way with like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster.
Right.
The reason those things get laughed at and made jokes of is because it's the person that see it tell you about all these fantastical things, and they'll tell you they saw it, and they'll go and it's confusing to people, and they'll say, well, we had to do this and we had to do this, and we got to. First of all, my whole feeling has always been if I go into a dark room where there's supposedly ghosts, right?
Right.
And I sit there in the quiet for however long, and something doesn't happen. It doesn't mean there's not a ghost in the room. It just means nothing happened at that moment.
Right.
But if people are going to widely believe this stuff, right? If people are if you're gonna open people's minds up to it more and more, instead of making it almost like a kind of an edgy thing,
right?
Then more people need to see these things and needs to be revealed more. So that's my whole thing is I'm going because I want to tell the truth to people. I want to do a real ghost hunt where there's nobody doing anything. It's just us in front of the camera, and we're going to be in these places, and we're going to invite contact. And we're going to open up our minds, and we're going to say, look, if there's anything here or anybody that wants to communicate with us, we are going to stay in this room, and we want to hear from you. And we're gonna see, but we're all going to be there. There's nobody going to be off camera throwing stuff and acting silly. And that's my problem with like the TV shows. The reason
they do that. They fake a lot of things.
They do, and it discredits somebody that like you.
It discredits the real things.
Yeah, that you experience real stuff, so it discredits. So when you tell your story, people are like, yeah, but you feel it and you know it.
No.
But you get discredited because people are fake.
I don't sleep in the dark. I don't sleep without a light. No, I don't sleep in the dark. I don't sleep without a light on. I've grew up my whole entire life fearing something that I seen as a child, and it very well scares you to the core of your well-being.
Right.
When you're a child and you see something and you interact with a certain energy or being or whatever you want to refer to it, or something on a different plane, it really does scare you for your whole entire life. And I spent my whole entire life blacking it out and trying not to trigger it, because you never know what's going to go bump in the night at 3 o'clock in the morning or at their certain hour when they can break through the plane. So
what do you think is more concerning because I know you've experienced a lot of things. Is it more concerning like to you that a real life scare, like someone breaking into your house with a gun, or a spirit? What would be, if you knew spirits were real, like if you're convinced, like we go to this ghost hunt and something comes up and like pats you on the head or does something physical, and you know it's something. What's more frightening to you, that or the real fear that we face in life?
Neither.
Neither is.
In all honesty, I'm not afraid of either of them.
No, not afraid, but what is more impactful? What affects you more?
Someone kicking in my door.
Okay. So I think
that's going to have a lasting effect. When you put a bullet in them, you have to work through the fact you just killed someone.
Right. So if you go on a ghost hunt and a ghost gets physical with you, would that make it more real? Like if a ghost actually grabs hold of you. See, to me, that would be the ultimate in if you actually feel something grab your arm.
Well, until you've had scratch marks down your legs or
That's true. That's a very good point.
handprints or bruises that you can't wake up and explain.
And you've had that?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Members in my family have all had that. It comes part of that. You can meditate. You can buy a Ouija board. You can do anything to trigger those things.
Be able to see her.
But you have no idea if those mean you harm or they don't mean you harm.
Right.
And there's also like bad blood. Like you could refer to the Manson murders, like those houses that people were murdered in. Like people can't live in those houses, and they explain everything that can't be explained or just anything. So my thing is I know there's bad people in this world, and yes, you should fear them, but I fear the things that you can't see.
Okay.
Because you never are going to know when it's coming or when it's not coming. And yes, you can't predict when somebody's going to kick in your door and hold a gun to your head, but at least you have a sense of way to protect yourself.
Right.
Or
But you
something
can't protect
like that.
yourself
But
against,
you can't protect yourself something that you can't see.
Unseen forces, yeah, I get
No.
that. So let me ask you this. So there was a story, I go on Creepypasta on YouTube. Creepypasta has some really cool stories. Some of them are real, some of them not. But I mean, for as many stories as you hear that you can, if somebody tells you a story about something they experienced, what you're supposed to do respectfully is accept the fact that they experienced it and then move on with your life.
Well, yeah,
You
because
don't wanna
they believe that it happened.
Exactly. So by you,
It's real to them.
By you saying something insulting or telling them you didn't feel that, it's disrespectful to
It
their
is, because
to who
they believe it's real.
Right. So this person that told this story in Creepypasta it was basically, and this has happened to me before, so I never really had an explanation, but it was cool. So he said when he was a teenager, he and his buddy would go. They lived like in Minnesota or somewhere, and they lived at the edge of like a woods.
Right.
And they used to go hang out in the woods and play in the woods like kids do. And he said, as he got older, he started feeling a weird feeling in the woods, like something was watching him all the time.
Right.
And he never knew. And then, like his dad would tell him that, maybe it's an animal sitting somewhere stalking you, and you're getting that feeling, that eerie feeling. So he went one afternoon. He and his buddy went for a walk, and his buddy and his dog. And they walked down this main trail that they go on all the time, and these woods were huge. And they had this marked trail, and then you got to a point where it kind of closed off, and then you had to like go crawl around a little bit, but then you could get back onto the trail. So they get to maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles into the woods where it kind of turns and goes into the deeper part. And this one day, this guy that's telling the story got this really daunting this pressure.
Right.
And so he got to the turn and he stopped, and then his dog stopped and
'cause they feel
wouldn't walk and was staring at something. And he tried to, you look at the dog's point of view, and a lot of times the dog either hears something or sense something, and that's why I said about animals a joke, but that's why you always see in horror movies there's always an animal or something around, because they don't have any preconceived thoughts, they're just instinctual. So anyway, he was telling the story, and he said, you can believe me or not believe me. You can discredit me or think I'm crazy, but this happened. So he said, my buddy wasn't feeling what I was feeling, because I said, he goes, he wanted to keep walking, and his buddy's like, come on, man. He goes, no, something's going on. I said, look at his dog. He said the dog wouldn't go any forward.
Right.
And you see this stuff in movies, and it kind of freaks you out, right? So he was standing there with his dog, kind of petting his dog, and he was looking, kind of staring into the woods, and he just didn't know what it was he was looking at, but he knew he just could tell there was something there, and he knew the dog was reacting to something. The dog was kind of whimpering and was backing off. Well, his friend said, come on, man, it's probably just an animal, it's probably something sitting there like and he goes, well, if it is a bear or a mountain lion, you need to be careful. And he goes, there's no mountain lions around here, this is not,
Right.
So they left. They went back out, and the buddy decided to keep walking. And so the buddy came back, and he said, so how'd it go? And the buddy's like, hey, it's fine, man, I crawled through, da-da-da-da-da. So this guy that was telling the story, he would walk down the woods every time and get to that area, and he always felt like there was something going on. And then he found out from another person, it was a girl that he knew, that she had experienced the same thing, and she said that she saw something. And he said, what did you see? And he said, all she could really describe it as is a shadow person.
Right.
So she said she walked farther and got to this kind of this little clogged up area, and she stood there for a second, and she had her dog with her on a leash, and the dog kind of stopped and sat down, like pointing at something, and she was like, "What's going on?" And she looked like at an angle of the trees and where the sun was coming in, and she could see this figure standing there, and she first of all just kind of giggled to herself like whatever, and as she took a step forward, the figure like went behind the tree and kind of like it was hiding, so it was like sticking out and kind of went behind like it was hiding from her, and she was like, "Oh no," and she says, she was telling him the story, and she goes, "I still get chills from it because it was so real," and so she left the woods and wouldn't go back in. And she said, "So I just want to let you know what you were feeling was real because I felt it." So the whole point to that is what you're saying is when you go to an area that might have activity, spiritual activity or ghost activity, is it helps to have somebody there that's kind of in touch with that, because the spirits or apparitions recognize that. Right, they recognize that energy field. Right. But a lot of that goes to, like within woods, there's a place in Japan where a lot of people. Suicide woods. The suicide woods, but what's the name of those?
I can't remember. I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
I don't know. Logan Paul filmed a thing, and then he.
Well, they made a horror movie about it too, where the guy went to look for his girlfriend, went to Japan on some college retreat, and she goes to the woods because she hears about these woods, and everybody's acting weird around, and she ends up going to the woods and disappears, and then he goes in there, and it's some kind of weird spirit. They or whatever.
Have thousands of disappearances in those woods a year.
So it's the Aoki Gahara Forest.
Well, according to most ghost hunters, where that area lies, it lays on a ley line of like what you would consider like
it's at the flank of Mount Fuji. 30 square kilometers of hardened lava laid down by the last major eruption. So it's a volcanic forest. Well, so they believe, and so I know this for a fact, they believe that any volcanic activity, if you trace back, like you talk about Native American Indians and Indian and then the Aboriginals and the original people of Hawaii and places like that, when they tell you about volcanoes and eruptions, and it's all nature, and they believe that the spirit of nature is angry, and so when that happens, things get released into the atmosphere, and then people that are more in touch with that, like you and what are they? I call it psychic empath, but it's not. That's a different word, because there's a lot of people that are in touch with it. But
talking about conduits?
Yeah, conduits. Like you're like a conduit. So I think that's where a lot of people have a hard time understanding, is the fact that there are people in this world that are more in touch with nature and human beings and unseen things than what you would realize. And if you talk to somebody and you allow them, if you open your mind up and listen to them, it's not about you. Like, I'm still skeptical and I believe what you said, but I give credit to what you said because you experienced. Who am I to say you didn't experience that? So you experienced, you've seen and know what you said. So my thing is I want for myself, I want to see it because I've had experiences. I've had experiences in this bar where I saw silhouetted something. I don't know if it was a shadow or, there's been noises. Like Zach was in the bathroom one time and I had left him in here. I'd left. And it was I think it was a Monday or Tuesday, whatever. Zach's helped me with the bar, so he basically works here. So I said, I'm gonna run home and back. While he was in the bathroom, he heard me talking and thought I was still here, had to come back. I wasn't. So he knew somebody was talking to him.
Yeah.
And
that's them trying to make contact. They feed off of whatever energy, and especially when you are under the influence or your lines are blurred, that's where they get more of a contraceptive to like touch into your consciousness.
Meaning that's why a lot of times in horror movies people are getting high and drunk.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it ties into like the basic, like in Native American folklore, when they're trying to take in a certain energy, they use certain like contraceptives like peyote and things like that. That's them reaching to that. They're taking their mind to a certain consciousness to reach that plane, because most people believe that there's like energy planes that
different spectrums of light even, and there are people that can see wider spectrums than some other people.
And see, here's the thing, and when people make fun of that kind of stuff and they scoff at it, I will say this: throughout history, you talk about the Aztec and the Mayans.
Yes.
Those people were super in touch with nature, and they would, I went to Playa del Carmen. We went to Tulum, which is the ruins, and they had these big, I guess you'd say, stone not churches, but they were basically worship areas
Yes.
up on a big hill, right? Closer up. And the shaman or the religious doctor of back in those days.
Also, those pyramids, they run on ley lines also for their culture, like where they are centered, there's certain like minerals or whatever that are centered underneath it, and they produce certain energy. If you would take like, they have meters that like measure like energy, like you can take it up to the light socket. But if you take it to these certain areas, like where the pyramids are, like Egyptian, Aztec, Mayan, Incas, they all produce a certain energy. And like when people go to these places, they get sick or they feel funny,
right?
Because they're picking up on this certain energy. Now, were they tying into a physics kind of thing where they could feel certain energy or the certain rocks that they're using to build these? But I went to Cozumel, and the island was specifically meant for the lunar god, which it was the god of fertility. And the whole entire time I was there, it was just like a burst of energy. I had never felt that type of energy before, and especially when I was
What did it feel like?
It would feel
like, was it tingly? Was it an actual physical reaction?
Like,
or?
Normally when I have a reaction, it's like my nose or like my ears, like my excrements, but it was like I could feel like when you've ever touched one of those balls that have the little like thing, like like when you go to the magic house, and it's like it was like that. Like my hair was staticky.
Throughout your body?
Yeah, it was like throughout my body. Like I could feel the hair standing up on my body.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a certain energy that certain people pick up on, and it's not meant for everybody, or everybody just blocks it out.
And I will say, throughout history, the people that probably know more about the earth than any of us do, even scientists, the people that lived life amongst nature and spirit. You know, you talk to any true American Indian, the original people of this country, of this land, and you talk to them about their heritage. There are stories after stories, and this is real stuff of talking to spirits, and they have spirit guides that guide them through life, basically, that keep them. They tell them and this is the thing, is Indians survived for centuries until we came along. Until we came over and conquered, and we took over and we ran them off their land. They survived with nothing. They didn't have cars. They literally got their guidance from spirits and their history and their knowledge of the land.
Well, and a lot of people actually don't, like, if you look to like the Pueblo people or the people that believe that a starman came down, they actually had in their like cliffs, they actually had toilets, and so did the Aztecs, and they actually had plumbing. And how you can think that these primitive people didn't have that if there wasn't some higher power, some higher source telling them or giving them some mystical guide to do that. So that's where the argument lies, is that people that functioned without light bulbs or any of that, and then we come over and we're like, oh hey, but they were running perfectly fine without it.
Yeah. So I mean,
medicine.
Yeah. So they understood nature and understood what the natural properties of herbs and plants, where they could use them to heal the body. And like you said, I think they probably got some divine intervention from whatever they worshipped or believed in that gave them knowledge. And I think some of the scientists, some of the doctors and the shamans or the religious people, who often also were doctors in the tribe, there was a reason that the religious leaders were also the doctors. There was a reason for that, because they believed that they got guidance from the gods, and so they knew that certain plants had medicinal value, and they would go get this plant, or go get and do this. But you're talking about people that used to send 12-year-old boys off by themselves basically on a vision quest, and you go by yourself and have to survive off of what you knew. And these guys would come back and talk about visions they had where they were talking to their spirit animal, and it could have been a bear or a lion or whatever, but they would have conversations with these animals, and the animals would tell them where food was at, where water was out, and that kind of stuff. So we were talking about medicinal marijuana earlier. I think there's Joe Rogan talks about tapping into the part of your brain that you don't use, and sometimes mushrooms and different type of things can do that.
Well, and also Freud touched on that a little bit. I mean, a lot of people think that his versus psyche or whatever, but obviously he had a conscience.
Tell me about your mother.
Freud was the first motherfucker. Actually, Oedipus was, but Freud really perfected it.
Freud. Okay, so we're going to do a whole episode on Freud because we talked
Freud.
about that. But Freud was one of those guys that could whatever you did in your life, whether it was bad for you or good for you, he would connect it to something from your childhood. And typically, because a mother is the first connection with life that you have from the womb on, and Freud had these philosophies and teachings where things, your psychological, your base and how you were formed in the womb.
Right.
So how your mother behaved in her life and the negative impacts on her life and things that happened to her affected you in the womb, and when you came out, those are things that you had to deal with. So sometimes when people came out, he examined, could you be born bad? They talk about this. Is anybody born psychopathic, like crazy? And Freud had some agreement to that, where it could happen in the womb from things that happen. But then there was also the connection between the sexual connection between his son and his mother, and that's when
I think it was just George Thorogood, right?
it was just George Thorogood. Yeah, one whiskey, one beer, one scotch, one bourbon.
The day he was born, everybody gathered around to gaze my wonder at the.
Yeah, but I think when they thought he was going off the rails, when he talked to his clients and his patients and said, tell me about your relationship with your mother, and everything became sexual because men are so guided by sexual drive that it's inherent in us. It's deep in who we are. And so he was like, our first sexual contact with anything was our mother's vagina. And then we suckle on their breast for food and sustenance, so we connect boobs with yay, happiness.
Exactly.
And also he also philosophized I know, thank you very much, philosophized. He also had teachings about the connection between men and the female vagina, on why we were so attracted to it and why it was something that we were drawn to, and it had to, because from whence we came. And it wasn't so much sex, it was more about us wanting to be close to where we began from. It's interesting stuff.
I just want to go home.
Yeah. Well, and then he did a lot of study on homosexuality too, on why men find other men attractive and women and women. He said because sexual nature does not have gender. Sexual attraction does not have gender. It has to do with drive and how we feel, and it has to do more about the feeling, the guttural part, as it has to do with, is it a boy, is it a girl? And the case in point, when 82 or 83% of 12-year-old boys have homosexual feelings. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but
yeah, you've mentioned it a lot on the show.
I have. Well, I'm just saying, it's very true.
It's part of it.
I did. I had confusing feelings when I was 12 years old. I got molested at 12, so that didn't help. But then on top of that, I had weird things that I had to work through in my head, and I'm like, I'm not supposed to be like,
But a lot of people can't work for those things. They take it out on their sexual behaviors.
Yeah.
Which the same way that Freud went into is that, I know a lot of people that were sexually abused, and they worked through those traumatizing things through behavior that led them down paths that were probably not great for them. A lot of them steered past that and have great productive lives, but some of them are still stuck on those memories.
So you being a healthy woman and understanding a lot of things.
Well, also I'm a hairdresser and I talk to thousands of people.
Well, you do, but you are also very in tune with a lot of stuff. So being that, I'm going to ask you something I've always wanted to know. Why is the actual physical act of sex with a woman, why is it so emotional for a woman? Why is it way more? Now, not every woman.
Yeah, not for
to be fair, there's some women that just want to knock it out.
There's a lot of people that can turn off certain feelings, but for a lot of people, it's the touch or the act. It sends off like a receptor. Like for men, it doesn't send off a certain receptor. It's like an actual neurological study.
Right.
But it sends off a certain receptor that releases certain hormones to a woman that makes it like a love euphoria kind of thing.
So a connection thing.
It's a connection thing because it releases certain endorphins and serotonin in the brain for a woman, which does not always happen with a man. That's why a man can, but you also have to look at the, survive, not survive thing. you have to look at it that way. Yes, we produce so many eggs and we can whatever, but the way that a basic man's nature is meant, he's supposed to spread his seed. And so for a woman, it's...
I like that. Spread his seed.
That's,
Hashtag spread my seed.
Spread your seed. I mean, you have to look at it as a like psychological or a science point that it's different for a man than it is a woman.
So men,
because the genetic makeup is different.
Yeah.
And our brains fire certain endorphins. So you could also look into that as when people are also trans or whatever, because their brains are also just wired different. I just watched a documentary about it the other day where an actual guy in Britain was taking trans people and gay people and straight people and showing them certain like sexual form, and he has your brain with a little, and he can see your brain's firing certain different colors.
Yeah.
So there is scientific proof. A lot of people want to disregard it, and there's not funding for that, but you have to look at it that way. Everybody's brain is going to respond a fight or flight difference or a sexual encounter different than other people. So you have to look at that as everybody is an individual and they're not the same.
So here's I always said it, and then we'll be done with this topic, but I've always said this, that men cheat with their penis, women cheat with their mind and their heart. Mm-hmm. So if a woman has an affair, she does that because something in her mind and her heart.
It's not our fault. That's God's fault.
No, it's not.
God only gave us enough blood to run one head at a time.
So it's shut down and then it goes to this one?
Hey, you
time
can't
for sex.
blame me.
Don't think.
I'm not cheating. I'm not cheating with my fucking mind.
That's why women get so mad, because when you're in a relationship with a woman and they kind of shut off, like sometimes they use sex as a weapon and they shut it off to you, they're like, you'll be fine because you can get.
Because you could watch a TV show and yeah, so
Pornhub,
it's
man.
different.
There's thousands of places out there to go and get
for
what
free.
for free.
Man, these fucking scrubs.
Huh?
Somebody put gum on the ATM.
Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Sitting here at this
You're
table, like,
freaking me
what are we
out.
gonna do with the gum? I don't know. There's a cup and a can. No, let me just put it over here.
There's not a trash can on the other side though.
Yeah, no,
So
that would have been too much effort. All right, so you can stay for the rest of the show if you want, or you can go have fun with
I'm gonna go
whatever
have
you want.
fun.
Okay, go have fun. But I thank you for stopping in, because we don't usually get a intelligent woman on the show.
Well,
we've only had a couple on the show, and you're the third or fourth one.
I watch a lot of documentaries, and I'm a lot different than a lot of other women.
Yeah, you gave us some good info. Thank you. Wait, we didn't tell them who you were.
Oh.
You're going by Quady now, right?
I'm Katie Quady.
There we go. Oh, where's she going? She's leaving you.
No, she's going to her car.
Oh, okay. So, moving on, you're watching Session Stream Live from Shaker's Bar, downtown Cape. And originally, when I had the idea to do the show, that was kind of something I was wanting to do, is like be talking about something and then somebody just kind of come in. Right. So let's move on to something else that I wanted to talk about tonight. Are you familiar with Alice Johnson? Maybe not? Okay. So Alice Johnson was the grandma that Trump got out of prison. She was in there for drug charges and was in there for several years, 17 or 18 years or whatever it was, and he released her, and that was on behest of Kim Kardashian and Kanye West.
Okay.
All
right.
So Alice Johnson is...
I didn't know name.
Right. So Alice Johnson is an African-American woman that was a grandma that Kim Kardashian had kind of taken a kind of been in tune with and was like, do it for prisoner reform, right? So Trump signs the first step prisoner reform, which basically is trying to get people out of prison when you don't need to stay in there forever. He's trying to free it up. The reason I wanted to bring this up is I wanted to talk just a little bit about Alice Johnson and about what it means for this country for that to have happened. And I don't care if it was Trump or a soda can that did it. Somebody did it finally. What it means, if you think about Alice Johnson, she was actually convicted of intent to distribute, and basically she was dating somebody or she knew somebody, and probably she got wiped up in it. But anyway, she got a lot of years, and so she was in prison. Kim Kardashian goes to the White House, talks to Trump. Trump looks at the case, considers it, talks to his attorney general. They start looking at it, and they release Alice Johnson. She comes out, and there was an ad in the Super Bowl, which I give Trump credit, pretty good placement in the Super Bowl of Alice Johnson going up to her family and thanking President Donald Trump for getting her out of prison. It was a pretty good marketing, good ad. Sure. showing that he was doing the prison reform. But I will say the First Step program is super important, because the whole problem with people being in prison and getting out is, what do they do when they get out of prison? When you're a felon, what do you have left for yourself? You can't really go back to. It's hard to go back to where you came from, especially if there's people that you used to run with. So you look for a better life when you get out. You want to do better. And a lot of times there's a lot of recidivism in this country where people get returned. I think it's 74% go back to prison. Maybe that number would be reduced if we had programs and things in place to where people would get a better chance. There's a lot of employers, in fact, that will hire you even if you are a felon. But I think Alice Johnson is a prime example of how our criminal justice system sometimes oversteps into our lives and kind of puts us into a situation where even if we wanted to do right, we couldn't. Now, this is also an example of somebody that did one thing and was probably in the wrong place at the wrong time and probably won't do anything ever again in her life. But the reason I want to bring that up is Zach, you have, in your life, you've seen the ups and downs. Yeah. You've gone to jail momentarily, not for a long time, but you've been in. You've seen the worst in people and the best in people.
Sure.
One of the things about you is you're a survivor. You've always been able to work through stuff and survive. You adapt. I think we've got to give people a chance to get to that point, and I think that's where the First Step program from Trump is giving someone that's been in prison for a long time, giving them an avenue to actually finding something out there for them.
Absolutely.
And here's my thing is, I really think with criminal justice reform and with prisons, and Cody, maybe you agree or don't agree, but I think that we need to evaluate many people that are in prison and look at their case and look at what's going on, and the fact that we don't really have active programs doing that right now. States just kind of lock people away, and federal government lock people away. They do their time and they get out. But maybe we should look at, what happened in the case. And
I wholeheartedly agree, especially on nonviolent crimes.
Yeah, nonviolent crimes, and especially on, you got now. How do you keep someone in prison now with all the marijuana legalization? Somebody that's in there for a drug crime, if it's marijuana, you get somebody with a pound or two of marijuana and you think, oh, he's going to distribute. Well, now that you're doing all this legalization, shouldn't they in effect be on process to get out? So I brought that up because I just thought about, I've got my oldest son is in prison, and he's in there from making bad decisions and not listening to me, but that's the way that goes. But I kind of thought to myself, is he got out and then he was out for about 6 months, he went right back in, and I thought it's hard to get a job. And it's daunting, especially when you're a young man, where you feel like maybe there's nothing for you. So you only see the possibilities of committing more crimes.
Right.
So, Zach, did you ever know anybody that, in that situation, that had gotten out of prison or out of jail and kind of was in that cycle of never feel like they can't ever get better and do
Absolutely.
right? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I'm not using any names. But yeah, no, like they were in there. It was a situation. It was self-defense. That's ultimately what it was. And they got sentenced 5 years.
Was it federal or state?
State.
State, okay.
They got sentenced 5 years, but a year in prison is felony.
Yeah.
They come out. You get
was this up in Mass or was that here?
No, that's here.
Okay.
So this is when you look at it, I mean, the guy got shit canned from McDonald's.
Okay.
For being a felon.
Did he not disclose that on his application?
He says he did, and it's all. He said he.
Because there's a place on applications.
Of
have
course.
you been convicted of felony? And McDonald's hires felons. They actually have it on their website. It doesn't keep them from
when
getting a job.
When you look at franchises, though, it's still on the franchise.
Yeah.
And that's how you have to look at a lot of it. I mean, the corporation might hire someone, but a franchise owner has final say.
Right. Okay.
And that's where this is becoming a problem. It's a shit situation because you get a job, you start to finally be able to get back on your feet, you get shit canned, then you're knocked down again. You're back at square one. So
would you hire somebody that you knew had a violent felony?
Yeah.
Would you hire them as long like? What would you need to hire them? If you were going to hire somebody, like you had a business, and you knew someone, they came to you and said, "Look, I'm going to be straight up with you. I just got out of the pen. I'm on paper, and I've got a first degree assault with intent to kill. And I wanted to let you know that to begin with. And they
If
say,
if they're letting me know, why? At that moment, they opened up the discussion board.
Right.
So I'm 100% legal to ask why.
So you would talk to them, and then you would try to figure out.
Absolutely.
What
I believe
on.
everybody deserves a chance. Everybody gets one.
Right.
You know, I mean, I've had charges on me for beating the fuck out of a person. They had it coming. They deserved it. My charges were dropped, but during that time, you're thinking to yourself, I'm like, all right, I just fucked my whole world up.
Right.
But it's also the situation here. I knew why I did it. Maybe they've got the same reason.
Right.
You know, you walk home, right? You walk in your house. Someone is assaulting your wife. So you beat the fuck out of them.
Right.
You can be charged.
Well, that's
It
depends on the state.
Right.
But
it's still that area gray.
Missouri has a castle doctrine.
Right,
So,
right.
But you're right. It still is. Like, you can't go overboard. Like,
Right.
you have to do enough to stop the crime and then get help there. But I will tell you, if I have my gun on me, I'm going
to stop the crime.
I'm going to stop the crime.
But you know what I'm saying here. I'm just giving a
No, you're right. I get what you're saying.
Really vague example here.
Right. So, Cody, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go ahead, Zach, if you want to finish what you're saying.
You know, you could be charged with it. Now, let's say that guy in this hypothetical, he did the same thing. Is he at fault? He protected his own.
Right.
Absolutely
Right,
not.
and that's the thing is, and I'm going to go to Cody for this, is I think that it's easy for us in this society because it's such a prison-generated society. You know, we're law and order, and we're like the prison industrial complex needs to be fed and all that stuff. I think when Matt Lawler was here and we were talking about, crime and punishment and stuff, I think we have to consider when someone commits a crime, and it's not excusing it, but we have to consider all of the different circumstances.
Like, there's literally only one thing I would not hire a person on.
Pedophilia. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't hire a person if they raped a woman or pedophilia. I just couldn't do it. And now here's the thing. There's some people there's a line of thought for that. I really don't care.
I don't fuck with animal cruelty either. But
well, animal cruelty is true. That's true. We talked about that last show, too. We talked about that guy in Perryville that was arrested for beating up and torturing a little small baby deer.
The penalties on animal cruelty, and I'm super okay with it.
Yeah, it's like a Class B felony now. It's like super high. Yeah, it's almost the same.
Anything you do to an animal needs to be done to you.
Well, and that's the thing is it's all about the innocence, right? Crime is to protect the innocent. It's to protect people, and it's to protect the innocent. So when we view like crimes against children and innocent animals, we look at them kind of in the same context. Not that they're ranked the same,
right?
But an innocent,
innocence.
Yeah, innocence is innocence.
And to take that away from somebody is a very malicious fucking thing to do.
Yeah, when you take an animal that like, especially, I don't know if anybody's ever seen a baby deer. They're the cutest freaking things in the world. And to think about somebody torturing an animal like that because they have some sick, twisted...
Pisses me off.
Yeah, it does. And that's the thing is, I remember I saw a video of a guy that videotaped his neighbor beating his dog. And he did it over like a 3-month period, so he had enough evidence. And he called the cops, and the cops looked at the video and kind of, they charged him with something, but not a lot was done, right? It was in a state that didn't have a lot of crime. So this guy kept video, and he kept getting it. So one day this guy's in the yard, and he goes over to him, and he goes, I know what you're doing. I've got you on tape. And they start arguing, and this guy, the guy that was beating up the dog, came over in the guy's yard, and he goes, that's all I needed. And he literally dragged the guy, he beat him senseless, dragged him in the back of his house and beat him senseless some more. And then the guy tried to file charges on it, and the guy said, look, you came in my yard, I felt like you were going to attack me because I've seen what you do to animals. And he ended up getting off on it, but he was telling the story about it. He goes, I was sick to my stomach thinking that I knew this guy was doing this and I couldn't do anything about it. He goes, I called the police, they really didn't do much about it. They went out and talked to him, and they charged him, it was like a misdemeanor,
Didn't learn his lesson.
Didn't learn his lesson. So he was waiting. He was trying to invite this guy to get him in to his yard somehow, and he didn't know how he was going to do it. And then it just ended up working out. He just beat the snot out of this guy. This guy was begging for his. He said he was begging me, like, please stop. And he says that animal that you beat up, it was begging too when it whimpered and cried. You didn't listen. So guess what? I can't hear you right now. And so I think there's a certain part of us that needs to go back to the eye for an eye thing.
Yep.
I know they say, well, the problem with that is the government wants to tell us what crime and what law we're supposed to enforce. But my thing is,
fuck 'em.
well, there's a certain common sense to human beings, right?
Right.
There's a certain lawful existence that we have. This moral and
You can
ethical.
look at something that's going on and know if something's right or wrong, even if you've never been taught it.
You
can
get
tell
that
it's
weird feeling
justice.
about stuff, right? And like if I know about a woman that's been accosted or assaulted, and I know that the person sitting next to her, I immediately want to smack the person in the face
Yes.
and drag them out. But I think if we in this society, if we somehow can get to an eye for an eye, like I think pedophiles should be castrated.
I think anybody who fucking harms a child, you need to give a baseball bat to the father, say 2 minutes. He goes into a room. If he's alive, great, we'll prosecute. If he's not, fuck.
Well, I mean,
not a loss.
There's a movement in the school of thought that that the payback and the offering for this is like where The Purge came from, the movie The Purge. Huh? That's an ancient idea. That's not a new idea. No. The guy that wrote that movie, that's from an old story from back in which country? It was in Norse mythology. It was Vikings or I don't remember what it was, but it's basically excuse me.
Will you guys stop fucking dying?
He wasn't doing it, so I did it. If you did something in a village to somebody, you had that thing done to you, and it was public on public display, that town had almost no crime.
I wonder why.
Yeah, because you knew you were going to be dragged out of your house. So there are societies in this world right now that actually follow through on that. Now, those same societies that are like that are still kind of really degrading to women and to homosexuals and things like that. But I will say there is some kind of fulfilled feeling you get when you get to do to somebody what they did to you.
Yep.
So if you ask a rape victim, a female, a woman, a rape victim, hey, what would you have done with this guy? I think most, I'm going to say 90% of them would probably say, I want his dick cut off, I want him killed. And here's my thing. If you rape a woman, to me, you're just as low as a pedophile because of what you're taking, what you're doing, right? So now, some people think it's worse for children because children are innocent and they have no control, and sometimes people say things like, well, women, this and that. But my bottom line is, if you take advantage of someone and you're violent with somebody and they are weaker than you, or if you have just overstepped your bounds, there are certain punishments that I think should be done that aren't being done. And so I think criminal justice reform, we need to also talk about punishment reform. If you stop giving people country clubs to go to for 5 years.
Right.
If it's a certain kind of crime, that crime, if you have it, I guarantee you, this is my idea, but if you're someone that assaults people, if you go around smacking people or stabbing them or whatever, if you got caught, if you knew that you were going to get stabbed,
probably wouldn't stab too many
you probably would stop. I mean, there'd still be crazy people, but
sure.
You know what happens when a gunman goes into a place where there's a guy with a gun? Guess what? That gunman freaks out and gets scared, and usually runs. I mean, I saw the video of the one down in Texas, the church, where the guy pulled the gun out of the church because he was part of that response team. The dude with that with the shotgun, the dude froze for a second because the guy pulled the gun out, shot him in the head. So that's immediate justice, and I think there's a certain amount of value in life about that. So you're watching Session Stream live from Shaker's Bar, downtown Cape. We've got about 13 minutes left. So I want to go into kind of one of our main topics, and our guest didn't show up, so we're just going to talk about it from a personal standpoint. And I want to make this more of an advisory thing, and as a police officer and prison guard, and then someone that taught some self-defense classes, I wanted to talk about this, and I specifically talk to people that have to be out at night alone quite a bit and have to go and don't come in here, man. Don't come in here.
Do you have your wallet?
Don't even think about it. Just
turn around.
Just
every now and
as soon as they if they open the door to come in, I'm like, nope. Anyway, so what I want to talk about is personal safety, and I want to talk about situational awareness. Nope. Step outside.
No.
Nikki, go out there and give him a hug. You can. I did. I gave him a hug of get out. So speaking of that, the first thing I want to talk about, and you guys can jump in if you want. I'm sure you guys have been there. Pete Buttigieg is still leading in Iowa, by the way. I don't know if you guys realize that or not. He's got a narrow lead over Bernie. Anyway, when you are in life, especially in Cape now, Cape's been having a lot of violent stuff happening lately. I'm going to run through kind of what goes through my mind so you guys know and maybe can help somebody out there that has to be out at night. It's just stuff that people don't really think about very much, but I want to give it to them to think about. Your personal, your self-defense and your personal safety is up to you. But you can't count on a police officer because they can't get there. I mean, they're just not possible. Not if there was a cop per person, it'd still be hard for them to get to you. So you have to take care of yourself. So you have to be willing and be ready to defend yourself. So what I will say to you is situational awareness, which means being aware of your surroundings, stuff that's going on around you, always paying attention. This is one thing I think that I have an advantage of when I go into places where there could be a little more dangerous, is the fact that I'm constantly thinking about what can happen. And this
vigilance.
Yeah,
Moody taught me anything.
It's true though.
Keep your head on a swivel.
It's very true. When I leave here at night by myself, and I do have my gun with me, but when I leave, I look outside before I go outside.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of not. There's plenty of times where I fucking walk home and I've got both my headphones in and I'm looking at the ground while I'm walking. I'm guilty of it.
And not that anything would happen to you, and you've walked home many times, but there could be that one time. And so the reason I'm talking about this is I want people to constantly remind themselves of the fact that we don't want to live in fear. This is not about living in fear. This is about being prepared and being aware.
You're damn right.
It's not about fear. It's about confronting fear and dealing with it. And I'd rather know about it and be ready for it before it happens than just to face it after it happens. And that's the same thing when, like, me being a Second Amendment and I carry a gun. It's not because I want to shoot somebody. I mean, well, there are times when I think about it, but it's not because of that. It's because I want to be able to respond with equal or greater force. Well, greater for sure, but where first of all, I'm not going to be a victim, and then people around me aren't. I want to protect people, so that's why I carry a gun. And when people talk about, the people carrying guns and dangers with guns, people like me that are responsible Second Amendment people, we don't brandish firearms. We don't play with guns. We take them very serious. And the reason we like guns, the reason that because we respect them, we know what they can do. And we don't talk about enough in this country about what guns have stopped. We don't talk about the times that guns have saved people.
Right.
And that's what I think, that's what's being lost. But so I would just go through a few things. Before you go outside, no matter when it is, if it's broad daylight, do you lock your door when you're at home during the day?
Yeah.
Do you? When you're at home, is your door locked?
Yeah, usually.
Okay. I will tell everybody all the time, it doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter if it's 5 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, or 1 o'clock in the morning. Lock your doors when you're inside the house. In fact, keep them locked all the time. Be aware, keep your door locked and be ready. The other thing I'll tell you is work through situations and scenarios in your head. Know your plan of attack and what you're going to do to respond before it happens. So in other words, what could happen if we were sitting right here? There are several things that could happen. Somebody could run in here with a knife or a gun. Somebody could come up here and come through the glass. There are several things that could happen. So I'm constantly in my mind thinking, what would I do if this happened? Just like that person trying to come in. I know what they wanted before they came in. No,
Right.
tell them. So run through stuff in your mind. Never, ever let a moment go by in your day where you're not trying to mentally prepare yourself. And I do that a lot. I do it when I'm sitting home. And
I was taught you walk into a room, you find 10 things. You find 10 things to protect yourself.
Right, environmental weapons.
Yep.
You should always be looking around not only for weapons, but places to take for cover.
Yep.
For shelter. The time when the little shooting happened out here, my instinct, I locked the doors.
Absolutely.
I locked the doors, and then I crouched down behind where nobody could see, and if it came through, it wouldn't shoot me. And I waited. That's the immediate thing I did. As soon as the gunshot went off, I locked the doors and I crouched in because the people that were in here, I wanted them safe. That's the first thing I did. And then I waited. Now I had my gun, and I went and got my gun, and I waited. But the point is if you aren't prepared,
Window looking out.
if you aren't prepared, and if you aren't ready, and you haven't worked through these scenarios in your head, and it happens, you're going to be one of those people caught standing there going, "Oh, what do I do?"
Yeah.
and you don't want to be that. So I say walk ideas through your mind. What steps you'll take when something happens. Run the idea. If you're a female and you live by yourself, for example, and I used to do when I was a cop, and then after I was a cop, I used to do security protocols on people's houses. They would call me and I could go to their house and their apartment. I'd tell them, here's your weakness, here's what this is, and I would help people. I did it for free. I didn't charge anybody, and cops are trained to do that too. Cops can go to somebody's house and say, hey, I would watch out for this and watch out for that. But the one thing I taught a self-defense class over at the Cape Career and Technology Center that I designed, and the one thing I told them about when women are by themselves is first of all, have your home you know better than anyone. So set your home up as an advantageous defense mechanism for you. So in other words, if you're laying in bed, right, and someone comes in your house, you should have several different places to go or to get to. The first thing I tell people is if you're on a ground floor, jump out your window. You hear somebody in your house, get out. Don't sit up and go, I wonder what that is. Be in action. Quickly respond. If you are confronted, and I actually did the thing where they were laying down and I came and I jumped on them and they had to kind of fight me off with some self-defense stuff, jiu-jitsu and other things. And the main thing that I tell people is if you prepare yourself ahead of time, could you still be caught off guard? Sure. But the most important thing is don't be that person that, I should have done this or I should have done that. Be ahead of yourself, get ahead of it. And that's why, like in my house, I've got survival supplies and medical supplies and all that kind of stuff, because if we have a tornado or earthquake or natural, whatever happens, I want my family prepared. So
got 38 choices, don't make me use one.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And that's my whole point is never be ashamed or afraid to prepare. That shows your strength and your confidence in yourself. Practice makes perfect. You should always, whatever you're planning in your mind, practice it. So in other words, if you are a concealed carry person, practice drawing your gun. If you live in your house and you are by yourself, if you're especially a woman, guys think they can protect themselves better. Okay, that's fine, but you still should work through. I've actually done drills where I lay in bed. I've got my gun on my nightstand table, and I actually time myself. How quick can I get to my gun? How quick can I get to my gun and point it towards the door where somebody's going to be coming? And so you've got to practice, and you've got to practice situations. You've got to practice in your mind when you're walking to your car at night. What would you do if somebody came out from underneath your car or came from around another car? Where would you run? Where would you do? Put something in between you and the person. Yep. It's amazingly hard to catch somebody when they stand on the other side of a car. You ever try to catch a kid or somebody trying to run, like playing tag? Yep. If they get on the other side of the car, that takes a good 5 or 10 minutes for you to be able to try to get them. Even if you go over the car, they just run on the other side. Right. So put something between you and your offender. So same thing with the bed. There was a lady in I don't know, down south somewhere, South Carolina or somewhere, and she retold the story of how she fought her rapist off. He broke into her house with somebody that knew her and had been kind of stalking her, and she didn't know it. And he'd been watching her movements and everything. And one day she made a mistake of leaving her door open, and this guy happened to be there all the time. So he got in her back door, and he was in her house. She'd gone to work and gone to the gym and came home. She was in the shower getting ready, and she said when she got out of the shower she felt funny, like she got this weird feeling right in her stomach. So she
listen to that feeling.
Yeah, listen to that feeling no matter what.
Listen to that.
I would rather
feeling.
Search my house, and I've searched my entire house before. Closets, under beds, everything.
I have cleared my house.
I've cleared my house. I don't care if you think it's embarrassing. I don't care if somebody wonders what you're doing. I've walked the perimeter of my house before. If I heard something outside, I get a flashlight and I get my gun. I'll walk outside and I look. And my thing is do it, even though you might be a little embarrassed. I'd rather be embarrassed than caught up. Yep. So she said she was able to, she made the attack take too long because he started to give up. And what happens is in a rape situation, if the rapist or the person assaulting you can't get immediate value out of their assault, they start to kind of get this defeated in their head, and they get frustrated and they try harder. And if you can still kind of fight them off, they eventually in their mind give up, because most people that are assaulting or attacking people, they want to hit it and go. So a rapist or somebody getting in your house, especially for a woman, if you could put something between you and the rapist that is a barrier. So she used her bed. Yeah. And what she did was, her bed was up against the wall. The first thing she did when she realized somebody was in her house, she jumped out of bed and stood up on the other side of the bed, and she was waiting for him when he came into the room. She had a weapon, but she wasn't able to get to her gun yet. So she took the bed and she scooted it off the wall to give herself another path. And then she stood at the corner of the bed, and here he comes, and he stood in the doorway, and he said, if you scream, I'm going to kill you. And she goes, you ain't killing nothing. Like, she was fighting him. And there's a school of thought that when you train for self-defense, just give them what they want. No, you don't do that. Don't be a victim. Now, I used to tell this to the ladies in my class. If somebody comes up to you outside your car and tells you to get in your car and drive, you are basically volunteering yourself to be hurt. Say no. Fight. I'd rather be shot outside my car, not going in my car, than to be in my car and get shot when I go somewhere. Because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen, especially if you're a female. They're going to drive you off somewhere really quiet. They're going to rape you, possibly beat you, and then maybe kill you. So I would rather stand by the side of my car and give them my keys and say, look, you want my car, you can have my car. I'm not driving you any freaking where. And the gun is at your head. Look, sometimes you got to make a decision. Are they going to kill you, or are they going to take? Or what do they want? No, they just want your car. They want you to go with them so they can rape you. Well, don't give them that. Right. So that's what this lady did. She in her mind, I'm not getting raped tonight. It's not going to happen. So she stood on the other side of the bed, and then he tried to get to her, and they did this musical, this carousel around the bed. And then she'd push the bed a little bit towards him, and he'd push it towards her, and just eventually, after a couple of minutes, he gave up. He was like, fuck you, bitch. And he just ran back the way he came. He gave up. Now, that's not always going to happen, but the point is that she was prepared. She woke up out of a dead sleep and jumped out of bed and was ready to go to action. So what I say to you, anybody that lives by themselves or you're worried about something, work through scenarios in your head constantly. I'm constantly thinking, okay, somebody comes to my front door and tries to kick it in. Here's what I'm going to do. Somebody comes to my downstairs, gets in a window. Here's what I'm going to do. I constantly think through procedures. Could I be caught off guard? Sure. But preparing yourself is key. Study and read about real life scenarios. Constantly look. You look at True Crime Channel and you look at how people get attacked and how the offenders get them. Look through those things and look at the different avenues. Look for what they could have done. Examine those things. Watch videos, actual situations, training videos. There's lots of training videos on YouTube and other outlets where you can go on. Real life tactical, where you can actually go on and see instructors and people that were victims that start teaching about a lot of your rape. A lot of the women that get into training people to fight against rape and assault are victims themselves. And because they understand where it's coming from and they refuse to be a victim any longer. You remember that movie Enough with Jennifer Lopez? That's a prime example. She actually sought him out because it was like a lifelong thing. But she was preparing herself. That's what the training was, not just physical training, but mentally. And that's why her instructor pushed her and made her cry and scared her and blindfolded her and made her because she wanted her to be prepared for anything. So when she finally met up with the guy, she was able to take care of it. And the last thing I'll say is you can never think about or train yourself enough. Just like in martial arts or boxing or any other physical challenge. What?
Always room for improvement.
Yeah, that's why you see guys that have practiced a certain martial art in their 90s still practicing. The same moves, the same motions, the same kicks, the same steps, because they want to perfect them and they want it to be second nature. The only way something becomes second nature is you've done it so many times that it's just part of your normal activity. Part of that.
10,000 movements.
It's
muscle memory.
Yeah. That's kind of what they consider doing it about 10,000 times. So if you think about that, I've thrown way more than 10,000 punches. So I know how to throw punches. I've blocked punches over 10,000 times. I've sidestepped and I've used spaced and angles and
but I still have
parries.
room for improvement.
But you constantly want to do that. Yep. I'm never not honing my thoughts and trying to practice. And that's just the same thing as I'd say to anybody that's dealing with any kind of real life situation. First of all, you got to talk about it. That's the first thing I'd say. Your fear can't be greater than your need to not have it happen again. So, I'm down here. If you need to come down and talk, you can come talk to me or Zach. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're
there's a wide array of knowledge in this bar. So.
Don't be one of the people that are in a situation where you think it's worse to tell because it's never worse to tell.
Absolutely not.
And that's what your assaulter or your oppressor, the person that's on you, or whoever's doing this to you, whether it's a guy or a girl, that's their goal, is to manipulate your thoughts into making you fearful of everything that you think you could do. That's how people get held captive for years. These girls in Ohio that got held for years by this guy, they weren't being held by chains after a while. They weren't wearing chains after a while. He locked the doors, but he'd go to work and he'd leave. He had them trained mentally to fear him and not to want to step out. And when one of the girls finally saw an opportunity, she took it because she got tired of being in that mindset. So before you are captive for 5 or 10 years somewhere, run through your thoughts and train yourself and be ready for those kind of situations. Not to say that these people are victims because they want to be, but some people set themselves up for failure by allowing certain things to happen. If someone says threatening things to you or makes you feel threatened, listen to that. Listen to it and respond to it. The best thing to do is stay away from it. So anyway, just a little tidbits there at the end. It was a pretty good show. Cody doesn't feel good. He was a trooper, but he got through the whole show. I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank Katie for.
Bro.
I'd like to thank Katie for stopping in, and
Pretty rough.
Katie gave some good input on the spiritual side of things with Ghost, and she's somebody that experienced it, so it was good to have her come in. So for Eric and Cody and Zach, we'll be back next week on Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. We will have hopefully we'll have Brandon back next week, and I think Chris Monroe wants to come back on, and I know Renita Green's going to be coming on. You know Renita, right? Renita has agreed to come on. I think it's the third week of February. She's going to come on and talk about some things in town that she's working on and things that we need to do as a community to help out. And then I've got the people from Porch Initiative, which is for South Cape. The director, Julian's going to come on, and we're going to talk about some things that's hopefully here in the next few weeks. So we're going to have some good local interest things going on, and then still talking about some of the fun stuff we talk about. But for everybody here at Sessions, you've been watching Sessions from Checkers Bar every Thursday from 8 to 10 p.m. Thank you for stopping in, and we'll see you next week.